All right, well, thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to try to get through this really quick. But you heard a lot of things today and a lot of things the last 2 days, and I was trying to think of what the common themes were. And what I heard all the time was a couple of things. One is quality in everything that you do. And the other one was partnerships, whether you do it with satellite institutions or you do it by exchange of students. The other thing is it's very clear that it's going to be costly, at least the way we're thinking of it right now. And the other thing that came in, which I did find a little bit odd, was ranking and benchmarking. Now, benchmarking is usually to show how you compare to everybody else. But I guess my assumption was we sent people internationally back and forth because it developed them as a person and developed them as as a better professional. I never thought of it as helping my institution go up in rank. But I understand that too a little bit. But let's talk about, I was asked to talk about globalizing education in the fourth industrial revolution, so I thought we all better know what that means. So let's talk about, this is from the World Economic Forum, and talks about the three previous economic revolutions and what they consisted of. The first one in 1784, steam, water, and mechanical production equipment. The second one, division of labor, electricity, and mass production. About 100 years later, then 100 years after that, electronics, information technology, automated production, and then they're guessing what they call physical systems is about to start in the next 3 to 4 years, which you'll notice is about half the time of everything else in the previous years. So let's think about this for a second. What does that mean? Who would have thought that steam engines, which came from that mechanical material and steam, would drive human mobility from lands to cities, right? We didn't need as many people to farm the land anymore, so they moved into the city. And at the same time, produce more food on less land. And then when we took that over the next 100 years, that became more effective, we added electricity. And who would have thought it would drive urban growth even more? We'd start to get telegraphs and finally telephones, and the world got a little bit smaller yet again, and it drove mass production, which revolutionized transportation. We went from horses and buggies to automobiles. And then, of course, the third, solid-state electronics, made possible megacities, mass transportation, mass traffic jams that some of you are going to hit when you leave, right? And also, communication done in seconds in a device that you can hold in the palm of your hand. And so what's going to be the next thing? Disruptive technology. So what do people define as the fourth industrial revolution? I talked about it before, and there's no real definition of it, but what people do say, it's going to be integrating or blurring the difference between digital and the physical world and the biological world as well. And that's what I mean by blurring the digital and physical world with society, with our minds and bodies. We're going to have implanted sensors. We're going to do a lot of other things that we don't even imagine now. So let me give you an example of a disruptive technology. By the way, this is me. People ask me, do you ever go outside a spacecraft? Here I am. And by the way, that's what we called at the time an intelligent computer. I'm on a stand. I'm trying to manipulate to get a hold of a satellite that's off to the back end. And so I'm interfacing for the first time with the computer and letting the computer help me do a task I couldn't do by myself, right? And it wasn't easy, I'll tell you that. But nevertheless, let me give you an idea of a disruptive technology that's really pretty close. Let's assume quantum computing comes in the next decade. What does that mean? That means we can have holographs. What does that mean? That means we could have had this whole meeting with you there and you looking at me and me looking at you, but you wouldn't be there. You'd be at your house. So suddenly, this hotel doesn't need this meeting room. You don't have that big traffic jam because no one's moving around. Oh, by the way, we don't need all those airplanes because we don't need them to come here. Right? So one small thing like that can revolutionize the way we do everything. So higher education and how we're going to train for that future, that's a tough question. And internationalization is going to be a big part of that because we're going to be able to travel virtually everywhere. And it's going to change the way we live. So it's scary. I mean, if you really think about it, how do I train the next generation? That's on us. We're educational leaders. We have to figure out how to get these folks trained so they can adjust to that world, because after all, God willing, they'll be taking care of us in the future, right? And so I want someone that knows what they're doing a little bit. So what NASA trained, and I mentioned this yesterday when I was talking, is what NASA trained us to do was be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I don't mean physically uncomfortable, I mean mentally uncomfortable. Being expected the unexpected. Right? To feel good about it, to not panic, not get excited, but rather say, well, this is the norm. So disruptive technologies are the norm. And that's the thing that we have to think about a little bit. So let's talk about what we hear today. And this is what I hear all the time. We're dynamic and competitive. Well, the first thing that's wrong with that is that's true, but we better not be competitive because we're not going to survive to be competitive, right? And then you hear things like, at least we do in the States, the only thing constant is change, innovate or die. Well, there's some wisdom in that, in the sense that innovate means to change, and we're going to have to change. But I think more importantly, we have an educational landscape that is a fertile field, ready to be planted and taken advantage of. It's a great opportunity for the bold and the united to seed an educational philosophy to grow an educational population, both technologically savvy and literate for the 21st century and beyond. So we have an opportunity for the first time in history to really start from the beginning. You know, we were talking about the best way to start a university sometimes is to start clean slate and build it from the beginning. We saw some of that, and that's a great way to start. But we have a chance to change the way we educate everyone right now, across the entire planet, because everybody knows we got to do it. We just don't know how to do it. So let me tell you a little bit about administration. We're all administrators, right? And I learned this a long time ago. Administrations come and go, but the faculty is a constant. So as an administrator, I think of myself as a servant leader, a guide, a coach, provide resources, lower barriers, provide inspiration, lead but do not manage, right? And by the way, if you try to manage faculty, you know it's an impossibility. It's like herding cats, you know, they're all going every day. So therefore, the vision and the associated understanding has to be developed or nurtured within the faculty. If they don't bring forth the vision that you help them through your leadership, then we're not going to get to where we need to go. Because we're really servant leaders, or what I call leaders among equals. And it's difficult to be a leader among an equal. And I would say this, and I say this with respect, in the Asian culture that's even more difficult, right? But that's what you have to do. That's what the future is. So let me talk a little bit about the critical role of faculty in development of a futuristic mind. That's what I call, or what some people are now calling education 4.0, right? So what I would say is it's pretty simple. It's multicultural, quality in everything we do, and that was one of the things that came across in every presentation we heard. Innovative. Why does it have to be innovative? Because we don't know. There's no way to predict. That's why I showed you what happened just from the simple 100-year changes in the Industrial Revolution. We're not going to be able to predict what's going on. We need to teach critical thinking skills and teach students to learn how to learn, because again, I say to you, you don't know the jobs that are going to be here 10 years from now. If the quantum computing comes on board, it's going to change whether people have hotels. They're going to be certainly smaller. You're not going to need meeting rooms. You're going to have a little place on the cloud that you all meet. It's going to be just like being here, right? So it's going to just, we need to have people that have those kind of thinking skills. So just a couple of strategies for success. Stay true to your mission and values of your institution. Collaborate, don't compete. You should not be competing. And what I hate about ranks, the very definition of rank is what? I'm competing against you. I want to be number 1, you be number 2. I'm number 12. Look at it. I went up number 6, right? And that, what does that drive? That drives competition, and competition splits us. And we can no longer be that way. Think globally, but be prepared to act regionally. You're going to have to act regionally because you have to respond to the people in your region and what they need. But you have to do it in a sense that you're looking at the global outlook, future, and how it interacts. Develop uniqueness, innovate, be bold and willing to take risks. And I always say, think like a trustee in the board of directors of the Ministry of Education, because they have a job to do. And if you don't understand the way they're thinking, then you're just going to buck heads with them constantly. And you're going to say things like, why are they making policy? They're not an educator, right? But you're not a minister of education. You don't know what they have to deal with. So you need to come together and think like they do. Celebrate excellence in our community. I don't see that enough. I don't see us cheering on people that do a great job, right, within an institution. And what I always say to my folks is be a community of scholars more than a group of individuals. Possibility for initial activities, develop learning opportunities. And I love this picture. This is actually captured by the Columbia crew that broke up and they all died coming back over Texas. This was the last picture they took. They sent to me because I was originally on that crew and I got bumped for the Israeli astronaut. But nevertheless, they took this picture. It's great. It's a sunrise. So develop electronic learning in MOOCs, like I guess it's called the Thai Cyber University is presently doing. Develop cross-cutting research groups to address global problems and issues which integrate existing diverse research teams and individual faculty. And no matter how you put it, you're going to have to raise philanthropic or industrial support to see these global challenge research teams to match government funds that you get. There's no way that you're going to do this based on the government. And I think all of us, and what we're doing in the United States, not greatly successfully, but I think more than here, is we're saying to industry, listen, 95% of the people we graduate are your workforce. You're telling us what you need, but you're not giving us any help on how to get there. And we're talking about financial help. So we're asking them to be partners with us in everything that we do. Because without this, the rest is going to be a struggle. So this is also a picture that I took from orbit sort of just before a sunrise, coming up over the dark area, and I was trying to get the stars in there, and I'm not a very good photographer, but this is what I got. It's kind of cool in a way. But my vision, be lifelong learners, sustainable education, that is using technology to effectively train the workforce of tomorrow to continuously learn and stay abreast of rapidly changing knowledge in all fields. Be a part of the campus of the future that integrates technology, the arts, and literature, developing human technologists and technological humanists. Strive to be a future global participant and leader in literature, the arts, science, and technology, and teach our students to take calculated risks. We're at least in the States, I don't know the way it is here, but in the States we're risk adverse. And we're never going to get anywhere by being risk adverse, right? You can't be safe on everything that you do. You just take a calculated risk, cost-benefit analysis, you understand what's going on. Finally, these are the grand challenges that I would like people to do. There's a bottom one that didn't show up, which is sustainable education, but improve energy availability and the development of renewable energy. Everybody across the globe can work on that and can collaborate on that. Sustainable food and water production and concomitant distributions. Everybody can work on that globally. Managing of pandemics and the control of diseases and human health. Personalized human health. All of us can work on that as well. And design sustainable living spaces and integrate with the smart grid technology. That's also everybody can work on because that's all part of the greater human condition. All of those things. And even governments don't fight those things because it's better for all of us. And the final one is sustainable education that I didn't correctly put on here. But that's another view. Believe me when I tell you, your planet is the most beautiful thing that you could ever imagine when you see it. And the cosmos is even more beautiful. So why these things? They're integrating areas, inspiring the millenniums and Z generation, and are international in scope. Fits well with most universities' vision and mission, with the schools of public policy, communication, visual performing arts, education, agriculture, science, architecture, science and engineering. And the reason for that is a lot of the decisions we're going to have to make in the future are technologically driven, but they're ethical decisions. And so you need to get public policy involved, you need to get ethical people involved, the ethics folks, because there's going to be a lot of things that we can do that perhaps we shouldn't do. Finally, within these theme areas, the next wave in engineering, science, public policy, and business will occur. Things like living machines, sustainable infrastructure, and structures, self-assembling tissues for organ replacement, advanced manufacturing, 3D printing that's already being done, heart patches, integrated nanosensors, and transmitters in plants and tissues to monitor health and stress through an intelligent network, which will be on your phone to notify doctors and farmers what's going on. It's already being done. They're already starting to integrate sensors into plants, among other things, to tell you, geez, I need more nitrogen, or I need water, or I need this or that and the other thing. And if you notice, all of those are doing the same thing that the initial Industrial Revolution did. They're grouping people together, right? That they're producing this healthier food with less area. They're integrating all the technologies together. And that's why there's a blur. People don't know exactly where one starts and when one leaves, and I don't think there's going to be a blur. And finally, I just wanted to show you some pictures. The Great Wall of China from Earth. This is, you can see it runs down. This is a snow cover, light snow. It's kind of cool. And then, of course, the Himalayas, the lower Tibetan plateau, Brahmaputra River, snow on the Himalayas, the Australian outback from orbit for our Australian friends. And finally, something that John, the provost, he was the provost at the time at Washington State University, and he was talking about this in 2012, and he said, talking about future universities, perhaps this then is the most exciting vision for the future of knowledge and learning organizations such as the university. No longer constrained by space, time, and monopoly or archaic laws, but rather responsive to the needs of a global, knowledgeable society unleashed by technology to empower and serve all of humankind. I think that's a very good summation of what we're trying to do and what we should be trying to do with internationalization. So again, I think higher education is the bridge. I was going to use the word, I'll tell you a funny story. I was going to use the Great Wall of China and say, this is the bridge, but I didn't want to use the wall. It was going to be the wall, but the wall in our country doesn't mean a lot of good things to us, so I didn't want to use the wall analogy. I thought that would be really bad. It's just the opposite of what I was trying to say. But for understanding prosperity and peace, you got to be bold, quality, entrepreneurship, innovation, and multicultural. And finally, that's me in my last flight. And that's Aspie, one of the aliens that we encountered. And again, remember always, we're all part of the greater human family, and that's the thing that drives me and what I do and how I do things. And if you have, this is from the International Space Station, if you have any questions, and thank you for inviting me. And it's been great, and I've enjoyed it very much, and I don't want to keep you up. That's why I went through this pretty quick. I don't want you to spend a lot of time, because I know you want to get home. But I appreciate all of you, so thank you. With the alien? Yeah, I guess. We lost it. Oh, there I am.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
No. Okay, and you be closer, please.
Okay. That's when I had all my hair. I'm going to deny it when it hits the newspaper. You know, alien seen in spacecraft. Yeah. So thank you very much, and safe travels home. Thank you. So I will answer any questions if you want. If you want to leave, that's good too. You don't have to be that polite if you want to go leave.
Any questions from the floor? 1, 2, 3.
All right.